Tonight on Primetime, Israel is set for national elections in October, with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announcing his intentions to win, despite polls forecasting an entirely different story. Can Israel's longest-serving leader extend his stay in office? Welcome to the program. I'm Andy Mioch. Israel has confirmed it will hold a national election on October 27th. It sets up the first nationwide vote since the October 2023 Hamas attack and the regional wars that followed. Coalition head Ophir Katz says the date set by law would remain despite parliament voting in May to dissolve. Polls suggest Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's coalition could lose its majority, but the opposition has no clear path to power. Netanyahu faces public criticism over the October 2023 security failures and his handling of the wars in Gaza, Lebanon, and Iran. Netanyahu is Israel's longest-serving leader and has proven himself an unmatched political survivor. With the election season in Israel officially open, joining us from Tel Aviv to take a look at how things stand and just how the race might turn out is analyst Tom Gross. Tom, welcome. Great to have you on Primetime. Now, this is set to be the first full term of one Israeli government since 1973. That is quite a long time. What are the opinion polls saying right now? And what's the sentiment in Israel ahead of this election?
Yes, actually, I believe it's the first full term since 1988, not 73, but still, that's more than 50 years. Before this particular government, which has lasted the full 4 years, there were 4 elections in just over 4 years. You know, the governments were lasting often only a few months and then collapsing. So it is actually a tribute to Prime Minister Netanyahu's political acumen that he's managed to hold this government together right until the end of the term, October 27th, which is the last day by law that they can called elections. And just to remind people, Netanyahu, he's not just the longest serving prime minister, it's quite remarkable. He first was elected 30 years ago in 1996. He's won 6 elections since then, but there've also been 5 other prime ministers in between during that time from different centre and left wing and one right wing party, Barak and Sharon and Olmert and Bennett and Lapid. So he keeps on making comebacks. So one thing we should be clear about is you can never rule him out, whatever the polls say. Now, regarding the polls, there's a new party led by a former army chief of staff, a centrist party led by a man called Gadi Eisenkot, and he has surprisingly emerged as the leading opposition party, overtaking another opposition party that's jointly led by 2 former prime ministers. It's a centrist party. It's led by Lapid, Lapid, and by Naftali Bennett. So it's true that the polls indicate that Netanyahu has a less than 50% chance of reforming a government. However, the opposition is so divided into so many different parties that this can play into Netanyahu's hands. And in Israel, it's not about winning 50% of the votes. It's about being able to put together a coalition of many parties. And he may be in a position where he's able to do that, even if his Likud party has not got the most seats. He may still be able to form a coalition, whereas the opposition are quite divided. And you have, for example, secular parties that do not want to go into coalition with ultra-Orthodox Jewish parties, and vice versa. You have Arab Israeli parties, and they have some nationalist opposition parties that don't feel comfortable going into government with Arab parties who may not recognize Israel as a Jewish state. like the nationalist parties do. So it's not clear at all who's going to win this election, and everything's up for grabs.
And Tom, have we already seen some coalition pledges? Has the opposition already perhaps offered up what it will base its campaign off of?
Well, they are criticizing Netanyahu for several things. First of all, they say that he was the leader on the worst attack Israel suffered in Israeli history, October 7th, 2023, and therefore he should bear responsibility for not having prepared Israeli defenses to withstand that massacre of October 7th, 2023, and he should not be re-elected. They also say that he's a divisive character. He's accused of corruption, though he and his supporters fiercely deny that and say it's a kind of political stitch-up job against him. Working in his favor is a remarkably robust Israeli economy. In spite of all the wars Israel has been through and all the difficulties, the Israeli economy is one of the most robust in the world. The Israeli stock market's up almost 140% since the last election 4 years ago. The Israeli currency, the shekel, is up about 18% against the dollar. Unemployment is low and so on. So, in other countries, they famously say it's the economy stupid. Based on that, Netanyahu may get re-elected. Based on security, there is a feeling that he has not done enough to protect Israeli citizens, both on October 7th and also that the wars with Hamas in Gaza and Hezbollah in Lebanon and with the Islamic regime in Iran, none of those three wars have been decisively won by Israel. Israel has pushed back very hard against Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Iranian government, but all three entities are still standing, and therefore Netanyahu is criticized for not having decisively won any of those three wars.
And there you mentioned the domestic criticism. The Netanyahu government also faced international criticism, of course, for quite different reasons over the wars in Gaza, Lebanon, and Iran. How can that, and can it even, impact the upcoming election?
Well, very little, because, look, you have some far left parties who are joining in some of the fiercest international critics and calling Netanyahu a war criminal and so on. But those parties may not even get into the Knesset. They represent only a tiny proportion of Israelis. And in fact, there are many in Israel who think Netanyahu has not been tough enough, and he's been too hesitant in these wars. And those people are not just necessarily on the right. Two of the opposition parties, the Israeli Labour Party, which has now renamed itself the Democrats, is led by a former general who is speaking very tough. And Eisenkot, who I just mentioned, who's neck and neck in the polls, who's a centrist, is also talking very tough. So the international criticism, the opposition use it to say, he's making Israel unpopular and so on. But if people abroad are expecting policy differences, I don't think so. The policy differences are on other issues like the balance between religion and state, or the role of the judiciary, or whether the ultra-Orthodox should be forcibly conscripted into the army. They don't tend to be about whether or not Israel should robustly defend themselves, as Israelis would see it, against Hezbollah and Hamas. There is a kind of, 80 to 90% support over those issues.
And how much of a role could signals from Washington play this fall, and could a role be played by the public sentiment in the United States as well?
Well, yes, and obviously, Trump and President Trump being who he is, blows hot and cold. One moment he says admiring stuff about Netanyahu, and the next moment he's very downright rude about him. But at this point, because Trump is really all over the place, I think that in Israel, as in much of the rest of the world, people take a little bit with a pinch of salt what he says. One thing that does work in Netanyahu's favor is Netanyahu is English is absolutely fluent. Some people say he speaks better English than a lot of English people or Americans, whereas Eisenkot, his main rival, he doesn't really speak English at all. And that people may think, look, it's very important for Israel to have a prime minister, given the fact it's so involved in international affairs and international pressure. It's very important to have a prime minister who does speak fluent English. And even Netanyahu's critics, who can't stand him, will admit that he's quite, not the gift of gab, so to speak. He's very fluent, that he's able to deliver, to think on his speech, to deliver an interview very fluently in English on an American TV network or when speaking to American politicians. So I'm not sure that international pressure will be very relevant in this election one way or the other.
Thank you so much for joining us on Primetime and offering your analysis. We did check those numbers, and it is the first election that is happening right on schedule since 1988. Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you. Have a good evening.
All right, coming up, we take a look at the first day of the 4th Shusha Global Media Forum and the key messages of Azerbaijan's president, Ilham Aliyev. Don't go away.
Inside Politics delves deeply into the heart of global issues shaping our world today. Join me for your go-to source of political analysis from across the region and beyond.
Welcome to A News, unfiltered news and analysis from the region and beyond. From Washington to Beijing, Tehran to Kabul, to Tbilisi to Tashkent.
Hello, I'm Jay. That's challenges.
Today is the third.
We're with you 24/7, taking you live to the front lines of the day's biggest stories.
Welcome to Gabala. One important note to fear. I'm here.
Azerbaijan and Armenia.
Hello, we're recording on the 8th of November.
Reporting from Paris,
Dar es Salaam, Tel Aviv,
Washington,
London,
Moscow,
Kyiv, Berlin,
Rio de Janeiro, Beijing, Bangkok, Tbilisi, Tashkent, Almaty, Kazakhstan, Port Sudan, Tehran, Islamabad, Istanbul,
Kabul, for A News.
Welcome back. You are watching Primetime. The 4th Shusha Global Media Forum is up and running, bringing together journalists, policymakers, and media leaders from around the world. A News' team is on the ground in Shusha with the details.
It has been quite a packed day here in Shusha. The cultural capital of Azerbaijan has once again become the center of international media attention as the 4th Shusha Global Media Forum has officially started. The two-day gathering is being held under the theme "The Mission of the Media in Promoting Peace, Restoring Truth and Rebuilding Trust." President of Azerbaijan Ilham Aliyev attended the first day of the forum and answered questions from media representatives from around the world. Beyond the opening session, the day's program also focused on the challenges facing the modern information environment. One of the side events examined information security. For more on that discussion, we now cross to Ayten Shukirova, who joins us from the venue.
Thank you. One of the side events at this year's forum is focusing on digital platforms and information safety, bringing together cybersecurity experts, technology companies and researchers to discuss the growing challenges of the online information space. Speaking during the discussions, Chairman of Azerbaijan's National Cybersecurity Agency, Farid Zeynalov, warned that advances in artificial intelligence are making it increasingly difficult to distinguish genuine content from manipulated material. He stressed that strengthening media literacy and critical thinking, particularly among young people, is essential to tackling today's information security challenges. Australian digital media researcher Karen Sutherland echoed those concerns, noting that while AI offers significant benefits, it is also increasingly being exploited for fraud, misinformation and sophisticated online scams. She warned that many organizations still lack robust governance and fact-checking processes, increasing the risk of AI-generated misinformation being published or shared. This is all from me now.
Thank you, Ayten. Building on that, the program also featured a parallel event presenting the strategic framework of the D8 Media Excellence Center. The presentation focused on the center's planned role in strengthening cooperation, professional development, and knowledge sharing among media organizations. As part of the day, forum participants also visited the Kocaeli Genocide Memorial, a site of remembrance dedicated to the victims of the 1992 Kocaeli Genocide. The forum will continue with discussions on responsible journalism, the fight against disinformation, and the media's role in promoting peace and rebuilding public trust.
Hosting the International Media Forum here in Shusha carries deep significance, as Azerbaijan's cultural capital was, unfortunately, frequently turned into a hub for the occupiers' disinformation campaigns during the occupation. But today, truth and life have returned, along with international projects and global communication, making this moment truly symbolic.
This is my fourth time participating in the forum, and of course, each time I look for something new both for myself and for the Lithuanian press. And every year, the forum surprises me in the best possible way. First of all, I am delighted to see journalists, media representatives from various outlets, and even politicians gathered here from probably over 60 countries.
Iknur Seydamirova, Ayten Shukirova with Javed Aliyev and Elbrus Musayev, reporting for A News from Shusha, Azerbaijan.
Still in Shusha, at the Global Media Forum, a presentation was held on the strategic concept of the D8 Media Excellence Center. Participants were briefed on the center's strategic priorities, which are aimed at developing media cooperation between member states of the D8 Organization for Economic Cooperation. These include exchanging expertise, enhancing professional capabilities, and implementing modern digital solutions. Let's now cross live to Shusha and A News' Deputy Editor-in-Chief Orhan Amashov. Orhan, great to have you live from the Media Forum. Now, at the very beginning of all the events, Azerbaijan's president held a Q&A session with journalists from all over the world. There was a lot of questions there on a wide range of topics, but what were your main takeaways?
Hello, and a very good evening to you from Shusha, from the Shusha Hotel, where currently the gala dinner is underway. That's the same place where President Aliyev's Q&A session took place this morning. Well, my major takeaways are basically contingent upon the wide range of people that were present there. I mean, there was an Ukrainian journalist, Dmitry Gordon, who put his question about Ukrainian sovereignty. President Aliyev reiterated his support for Ukraine's territorial integrity, which he did a year ago as well. There was a journalist from, political analyst from Russia, Mr. Namo, put his question. I mean, my major takeaway was to do with that Russia-Azerbaijan relations question. There was a question posed by Mikhail Guzman, former first deputy director of TASS Information Agency. President Aliyev reminded the audience that that very person Mikhail Guzman, lost his job after putting that question to President Aliyev. President Aliyev referred to Sergei Markov, who also put a question and then declared foreign agent by Russian authorities, and made then subtle message directed to Mr. Naumov that, well, I don't know what will happen to Mr. Naumov. That was an absolute centerpiece of that Q&A session, because President Aliyev said that relations with Russia are absolutely fine now. They have been normalized, but also made reference to the actual problem. I think that was a masterclass in my humble opinion. And I think one of the things about Shusha Media Forum, all sorts of people are here. I mean, during the first forum back in 2023, there was a representative from Iran. This year, we didn't have anybody from Iran. This is one thing. I also, my major takeaway, when President Aliyev gave the definition of middle power, I think that at the beginning of Q&A session, he said that, well, there are different definitions. His definition had 4 key elements. One of them is that the country needs to be able to defend its territorial integrity without taking into account the wishes of big powers. So basically, whatever big powers may think, if you're able to defend your national interests, you're actually on the winning side. That was one element of middle power. And of course, regional responsibility. That is very much commensurate with the concept of regional ownership. And also he said that you need to have absolutely fantastic defensive capabilities. And he said something absolutely vitally critical. He said that defensive capability should be functional on the battleground, not necessarily during the parade, which I think was a very subtle reference to the latest parade in Armenia, which took place before the 7th of June parliamentary elections. And there were many other questions. I think that President Aliyev's articulation that Azerbaijan's relations with administration of Mr. Trump is absolutely fantastic. Those relations are absolutely fantastic. But so that was a distinction between US-Azerbaijan relations. It distinguished US-Azerbaijan relations from Azerbaijan-Trump administration relations, which was actually, I think, testament to the fact that we're not entirely sure what will happen when Democrats come back. There were many, many interesting moments, Andy. These are my major takeaways. I know our time is limited, therefore I think that I will stop here.
And Orhan, this year's forum has attracted quite a number of participants from all across the globe. What could you hear on the ground from those media professionals gathered in Shusha?
Yes, indeed. Today was Q&A session, Andy. Today we had a number of media-related events. I mean, my colleagues Ayten and Iknur reported about them, about the establishment of the Media Excellence Center here, D8 Media Excellence Center, and many other developments. But tomorrow, actual media part is going to start. We will have opening remarks. We expect Mr. Hikmet Hacıyev, the Assistant to President of Azerbaijan, deliver his remarks. And then there will be 6 panel discussions. One of them, I'll be moderating one of them, for example, where the subject matter will be from construction to renewal, urban narratives and media responsibility. Basically, allow me to give you a context. When the first forum took place here, at this very place, Azerbaijani territorial integrity had not been fully restored. Shusha was under Azerbaijani control, of course, but Khankandi was under control of separatists. So when we talk about from destruction to renewal, effectively, we talk about media's responsibility in promoting peace, but also making sure that at this time of the rise of AI, the attention economy, when people are really given opportunity to be literally inundated with a particular kind of information, we do not lose the essence of what is really happening. Destruction was in the past. We're currently observing renewal, but it's absolutely vital that whilst talking about renewal, we do not forget about destruction, and whilst talking about, but whilst referring back to destruction, we do not really forget the importance of focusing on renewal. There will be other panel discussions about peace building, about fact-checking, about documentaries. All of my colleagues will be there, and they'll be moderating different panels. So basically, essential point here is that peace building and the role of media in peace building. I mean, media should not be engaged in gaslighting or in whitewashing. Media needs to be able to reflect on the realities happening there. And the fundamental question, when you reflect on what is happening, are you actually deceiving the audience? Are you reflecting on the reality? And with the rise of AI and digital technologies, actually, we are facing a reality wherein we have opportunities to articulate some of the things that we are not able to articulate in the past. But simultaneously, attention economy, algorithmic reality is making sure that some of the attention-seeking elements, which are not really conventional with reality, is inundating our media landscape. How are we going to address this challenge? I think these are the major issues that will be discussed during tomorrow's panel discussions.
Very insightful, Orhan, as always. Thank you so much, and have a nice panel tomorrow.
Thank you very much, Andy. Thank you very much. Speak to you tomorrow.
All right, after the break, we'll check in with our correspondents around the globe. Don't go away.
On World Business, we meet the boardroom leaders making market-moving decisions. And find out how leaders are dealing with continuous technological disruption.
Shaken to its very foundation.
We are in Seoul's Republic of Korea, a country that for more than 70 years has lived in the shadow of unfinished war.
I was 18 years old when the Korean War broke out. My two brothers were dragged out to the front yard of the village public hall and forcibly subjected to a trial under the name of People's Trial.
The military demarcation line, created after the Korean War, became a massive wall, preventing separated families from meeting.
Less than a kilometer away lies North Korea.
지금 우리 무장력은 그 어떤 위기에도 대응할 철저한 준비가 되어 있으며
Подписанный сегодня договор предусматривает в том числе оказание взаимной помощи в случае агрессии против одного из участников.
Russian-Ukraine war now is connected with North Korean participation in Russian army.
The complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula is the only outcome that we will find acceptable.
If the U.S. persists in such hostile policy towards the DPRK, there will never be denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula.
Inside Politics delves deeply into the heart of global issues shaping our world today. Join me for your go-to source of political analysis from across the region and beyond.
Welcome back, you're watching Primetime. Let's now check in with our correspondents, and we start in Iran. Tehran says its fragile truce with Washington is under growing strain, accusing the United States of repeated violations, while warning that any new attack launched from regional bases will face retaliation. A News' Turaj Shiralilu reports from the Iranian Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Iran's foreign ministry stressed that Tehran is seriously following up demanding justice from Israel and the U.S. for committing war crimes, including the killing of the former supreme leader Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei. Spokesman Ismail Baghai said that the foreign ministry has documented the war crimes in the 12-day war in June 2025, as well as the 40-day war, which was imposed on Iran in February. Speaking at a weekly press conference on Monday, he stressed that crying wolf by the Israeli and U.S. officials after their military aggression of Iran will not deceive the global community. Replying to a question, the spokesman confirmed that the ceasefire memorandum of understanding between Iran and the U.S. is passing through a critical juncture in the wake of recent military encounters. However, he was quick to add that Tehran has never been the party to violate the truce deal with Washington, accusing the U.S. of repeatedly breaching the agreement's Clause 5 on the maritime traffic at the Strait of Hormuz. Asked about Iran's position on U.S. military bases in the region, Baghai said Tehran has at different occasions urged the regional states to stop allowing Israel and U.S. to use their territory for launching aggressions on Iran. The spokesman added that Iran's armed forces will respond to any attacks originating from the U.S. bases in the neighboring and regional countries. Responding to a question, the Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesman categorically ruled out remarks by the Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Rafael Grossi, urging Iran to agree with access to its bomb nuclear sites. Iranian officials have stressed that Tehran has no plans to cooperate with the UN nuclear watchdog on inspecting its nuclear centers destroyed by the Israeli-US air raids, but that it will continue its obligations under the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Tura Shiralilu from Iranian Foreign Ministry, Foreign News.
Pakistan is intensifying efforts to contain a fresh regional escalation, warning that renewed US-Iran tensions could unravel recent diplomatic gains and threaten wider stability. Mariam Zia reports from Islamabad.
Pakistan stepped up its diplomatic engagement on Sunday after renewed exchanges between the United States and Iran raised regional tensions. The Foreign Office expressed deep concern over the renewed violence. It urged all parties to exercise restraint, take immediate steps towards de-escalation, and uphold commitments under the agreement. Earlier, Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar spoke with Iranian Foreign Minister Sayyid Abbas Araghchi. Dar said dialogue and diplomacy remain the only viable path to resolving disputes. He reaffirmed Pakistan's readiness to continue supporting regional peace and stability. The two ministers agreed to remain in close contact. The latest outreach followed Friday's calls by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif with Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian and Qatar's Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani. He urged all parties to preserve the hard-earned peace gains achieved in the recent months and honor commitments under the agreement. For Islamabad, the renewed fighting is testing the diplomatic momentum built in the recent weeks, while fresh uncertainty around the Strait of Hormuz is again raising concerns over regional stability and global energy supplies. Mariam Zia, A News, Islamabad.
Turkey is backing a new NATO-linked defense bank aimed at unlocking billions for military production, procurement, and infrastructure as allies move to strengthen long-term security. Adam Morrow has more on that in Istanbul.
Turkey has told Canada that it will join the newly established Defense Security and Resilience Bank as a founding member. The bank is designed to provide large-scale financing for defense and security projects across NATO-allied countries with the aim of boosting military preparedness and enhancing defense industrial capacity. The announcement follows commitments made during last week's landmark NATO summit in Ankara. Speaking at the summit, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney said 9 countries, including Turkey, had agreed to participate in the initiative. The proposed financial institution aims to raise £100 billion in financing, or approximately $135 billion, to support defense investment among allied nations. The funding will likely be directed towards military procurement, infrastructure, industrial production, and technologies deemed essential for collective security. The initiative comes as NATO members seek to step up defense spending in response to growing security challenges stemming from the war in Ukraine and instability across Europe's eastern flank. At the Ankara summit, allied leaders also endorsed plans to increase defense investment in the coming decade, while also stepping up defense manufacturing. For Turkey, a core NATO member, participation in the new bank is expected to complement its burgeoning domestic defense industry, which has become one of the country's strategic priorities. In recent years, Ankara has invested heavily in homegrown defense programs, including the fifth-generation Khan fighter jet, unmanned aerial systems, naval platforms, and missile technologies. This is Adamaro for A News in Istanbul, Turkey.
Uzbekistan is bracing for extreme heat that could push its power grid close to record demand, forcing authorities to tighten safety measures and urge the public to conserve electricity. Sevil Rajapova reports from Tashkent.
Uzbekistan is preparing for one of its hottest periods of the year, with daily electricity consumption expected to reach 280 million kilowatt hours and peak demand forecast at 13.3 gigawatts. This figure is just below the country's record of 283 million kilowatt hours. In response, the Ministry of Energy has ordered power companies to strengthen its monitoring of electricity networks and substations, while suspending the loading and unloading of liquefied gas during the hottest hours of the day, to reduce the risk of fires and explosions. Additional safety inspections will also be carried out at energy facilities across the country, with temperatures expected to reach 44 to 46 degrees Celsius between the 13th and the 17th of July. The National Committee on Ecology and Climate Change advised citizens to stay indoors between 11 a.m. and 5 p.m. Drink plenty of water, regularly water trees during the early morning or evening, and avoid actions that could trigger fires. Extreme heat is becoming an increasingly serious global challenge. Western Europe has just recorded its hottest June on record, with temperatures exceeding 40 degrees Celsius in several countries. According to data from European health monitoring networks, more than 10,000 excess deaths were recorded during a single week in June, while the overwhelming majority among people aged 65 and older. Scientists say the increase in heat is human-driven, and it's making heat waves more frequent, longer and more intense. Europe is warming faster than any other continent, while experts say that countries across Central Asia, including Uzbekistan, face growing pressure on electricity systems, water resources and public health as temperatures continue to rise. As the heat wave intensifies, Uzbek authorities are urging residents to use electricity responsibly and follow safety recommendations, while emergency services remain on high alert to ensure uninterrupted power supplies throughout the exceptionally hot period. It is Sevil Rajapova reporting from Tashkent, Uzbekistan, A News.
Afghanistan is entering its most dangerous months for child hunger, with aid agencies warning that the window to prevent a surge in acute malnutrition is rapidly closing. Tamim Bahis has the details in Kabul.
UNICEF says there are early indicators that children could soon develop a wasting, an acute form of malnutrition in which a child becomes dangerously thin for their height. The United Nations Children's Agency says there are already visible warning signs across Afghanistan even before the peak malnutrition period from July to September. A new report finds that families are increasingly reducing meal sizes, skipping meals and cutting nutritious foods from young children's diets. The situation has worsened in 26 of Afghanistan's 34 provinces compared with 2025. Children under the age of 2 are the most vulnerable, accounting for 83% of severe acute malnutrition cases and 77% of moderate cases. UNICEF says children living in severely food insecure households can be up to 6 times more likely to suffer from wasting during peak periods. The crisis is not being driven by hunger alone. Disease, low vaccination rates, poor sanitation and funding shortages are worsening the crisis. The UN is urging more funding for nutrition programs targeting young children and pregnant women, alongside better coordination of essential services. The agency says early action is vital, warning that time is running out to protect vulnerable Afghan children before the malnutrition season peaks. Tamim Bahis in Kabul, A News.
Azerbaijan's customs modernization is receiving international recognition, with the World Customs Organization highlighting the country's growing role in shaping global trade standards. Rukaya Bashamak has more.
For the first time, the Secretary General of the World Customs Organization, Ian Sanders, paid an official visit to Azerbaijan. This came as the country continues to expand its cooperation with customs authorities, and as part of the program, the Secretary General was introduced to several projects being carried out by Azerbaijan's State Customs Committee, including advanced trade monitoring systems, before he delivered a brief statement to the media. Let's hear what he said.
During the visit so far, I've had the opportunity to see some great advances by the Azerbaijan State Customs Committee, a commitment to comprehensive reform and modernization consistent with WCO standards. It's been an impressive series of presentations I've received that confirm the value of the standards, but also the strength of the commitment by the administration to modernizing its practices. The relationship between Azerbaijan Customs and WCO has been strong. It continues to be strong and has been strong for a number of years. Azerbaijan participates in some of our most important working bodies and governance bodies of the organization, bringing its perspective, its expertise, bringing its ideas to the international customs community. But in addition to its participation, Azerbaijan has been working at a very tactical level, cultivating its expertise through the accreditation of WCO experts.
Now, the World Customs Organization brings together more than 180 customs administrations for the aim of helping countries agree on common rules for how goods are checked as they cross borders. These standards are designed to make trade faster, improve security, and allow legitimate goods to move more efficiently. So this occasion is particularly significant. Now that will be it from us here. This was Ruqayya Bashamah for A News.
All right, after the break, we'll take a look at other top stories making the headlines. We'll be right back.
More than 20,000 partisan fighters have been hidden. We found only 3,000.
My grandmother had 3 brothers. In the graveyard, the body of just one of them.
Their struggle was very unequal and against a state that had defeated such a force as Nazi Germany.
A lot of resistant fighters in the beginning of Soviet occupation actually would end up here, if not killed somewhere in the woods.
She was arrested at her home. Her 7-year-old daughter ran to her and screamed, "Mom, please take me with you." This record having the names of the individuals who were placed in the list of deportations.
I was born in Kengia, in a labor camp. My mother was a partisan liaison.
The first years were extremely difficult, of course. Poverty, hunger. The temperature sometimes dropped to minus 50 degrees.
The train stations, like the one behind me, once said goodbyes to thousands of people carried from across the Baltic states toward Siberia.
On World Business, we meet the boardroom leaders making market-moving decisions. And find out how leaders are dealing with continuous technological disruption.
Shaken to its very foundation.
Welcome back to Primetime. U.S. President Donald Trump said that the United States would reinstate the naval blockade against Iranian ships and ports and would charge a 20% fee on all cargo shipped through the Strait of Hormuz. Announcing the move in a social media post, Trump said that the U.S. would be the, quote, guardian of the strait and charge a 20% toll on cargo sent through the waterway. Trump told Fox News earlier that the U.S. would take control of the strait and get paid for protecting it. Turning now to Europe, EU countries have yet to agree on a new package of sanctions against Russia, with several key issues still unresolved. EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas said ministers could still approve adding around 250 individuals and entities to the sanctions list. However, discussions continued over proposed restrictions on maritime services and tougher measures targeting Russian liquefied natural gas.
We are hoping for that we get 250 listings agreed, and then we are also working for the 21st sanctions package where we don't have agreement yet. This is the biggest number of listings we have done so far. It's also reaction to the attacks that Russia has had on the civilians recently.
The European Commission will present a formal proposal after the summer to strictly limit children's access to social media. Speaking in Brussels, Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen stated that the initiative aims to target platforms with addictive features to ensure a safer digital environment for minors.
Have you guys tried Hey This Guys?
This is not about whether children can access social media. It is about whether and when social media can access our children. The question is no longer if children face risks online, but what can we do to give children a safer start online? Our children need time in the real world, time to play, time to build friendships face to face, time to make mistakes, time to shape their own identity, their own personality, before an algorithm shapes them instead.
The United Kingdom is to spend over $330 million on policing its Jewish communities. 500 additional officers are to be deployed to areas with significant Jewish populations. Police patrols around synagogues, schools and shops are set to increase. It follows a series of high-profile attacks on Jewish neighborhoods in London and Manchester. The outgoing Prime Minister Keir Starmer said the move was part of a coordinated response to stamp out anti-Semitism in the UK. In other news, a catastrophic nighttime blaze at a crowded bar in Thailand has killed at least 27 people and left dozens hospitalized. Authorities are now focusing on severe negligence as the possible cause. They say emergency exits were locked from the outside.
An explosive fire at a popular pub in Bangkok has killed at least 27 people and left dozens injured. Emergency vehicles swarmed the area in the capital's northern district as flames tore through the venue just before midnight on Sunday. Officials confirm that out of 73 hospitalized victims, at least 22 remain in critical condition.
We went out to smoke, and within a second, we saw smoke coming from the top. Before we could even move, it was like something was pushed out and there was a boom. It was so rapid, there was no way to get out at all. The people inside couldn't escape because we didn't know where the fire exit was.
Initial investigations suggest an electrical short circuit in a ceiling air conditioner triggered the fire. However, an active police inquiry is now focusing on severe negligence. Prime Minister Anutin Chanvirakul inspected the interior of the pub, confirming that primary escape routes were tightly bolted from the outside to prevent customers from leaving without paying. That resulted in hundreds of people being trapped inside.
In terms of the condition of the bodies, they died from smoke inhalation. The inside was lined with soundproofing foam, which contained toxic substances such as cyanide. A lack of oxygen combined with these toxins causes death very quickly.
At local hospitals, forensic teams are working to identify the victims. Most of them died of rapid suffocation rather than burns. As families wait for answers, authorities are also investigating the illegal use of highly flammable materials during recent soundproofing renovations.
Over to South Africa now, where authorities are stepping up their migration management campaign as anti-migrant protests spread. The government says it's deported more than 53,000 people during the last 5 weeks.
South Africa says more than 53,000 foreign nationals have been deported or repatriated since launching a nationwide migration enforcement campaign 5 weeks ago. Most are from Malawi, followed by Zimbabwe and Mozambique. The campaign is one of South Africa's largest crackdowns in recent years. However, the move has been marked by violence, intimidation, and looting during anti-immigration protests. Demonstrators have called for tighter border controls and mass deportations, accusing undocumented migrants of contributing to unemployment, crime, and pressure on public services. The United Nations has urged caution, warning against using migrants as scapegoats for South Africa's economic and social problems. Anti-migrant groups have threatened weekly protests until their demands are met. An unofficial deadline of the 30th of June prompted many foreigners to flee over fears of violence. Minister Mamaloko Kubayi says immigration laws will continue to be enforced, but warned protesters not to search homes or businesses, saying only law enforcement has that authority.
And for some sports semantics before we go, with the FIFA World Cup semi-finals just around the corner, football fever is reaching its peak around the globe. But as millions of fans tune in, one question keeps sparking debate off the pitch. Is it football or soccer? Fidan Sayadli explains.